Chapter 23:51. So much time had passed, so there shouldn't be any problems, right? Moreover, they had asked people to keep an eye on the livestream room. If there was a livestream announcement, they would pay attention during those few days. No matter how serious the situation was, they would not punish the students. Unexpectedly, Tangwa did not play by the rules. This time, she did not announce the time of the livestream. When many people were not paying attention, the livestream room suddenly showed an image. When the image of the livestream room appeared, the school's external network was blocked. In other words, under the interference of the system, no matter what kind of network news was transmitted, it had to be filtered by him before it could be seen by the people in the school. Even if it was a phone call or a message, it would first be transmitted to him. After he filtered it, it would then be transmitted to the phones of the people in the school. How would the people in the school know that there was someone in this world who had a heaven-defying existence like the system? With the increase of energy, the system had leveled up many times. In any case, its ability was very heaven-defying. Basically, in the network of these small worlds, he could not find a match. Previously, he had encountered so many systems. No matter whether they were good or bad, even if they had a serial number, they were all defeated by him. Humph, they could not beat him. The system thought arrogantly. While following Tangwa's instructions, it broadcasted some of the images that were happening in the school to the audience. At the same time, it captured the news from the outside world. In fact, when Tangwa came to the school, she had already asked the system to control all the communication and network devices in the school. They could only see what she wanted them to see. After all, she did not want to be interrupted in the middle of the live stream and asked to destroy the evidence. Now that things were getting out of hand, she had already destroyed 3 schools. Things could not be so coincidental. The other schools should be vigilant and would not give themselves away so easily. Therefore, when she entered the school, she had to control all their communication and network devices. Then, she could proceed to the next step and catch all of them in one fell swoop. Even if many people hated her to the core, they could not do anything to her. Even if someone wanted to block her live stream room, they would have to try to block it. The live stream was still in progress. Recently, Pan had seen several cases where the administrators of the school scolded, punched, kicked, and used tools to hurt the students who were sent to the school. Even if he was furious, there was nothing he could do. Now, he was eager to see if the live stream was broadcasting all of this. If not, when would the live stream be broadcasted here, exposing these people's evil deeds under the sun and letting the masses know of their evil deeds? Pan also discovered one thing. Tangwa was very calm. No matter what she did, no matter what happened in school, she was very calm. Even if she occasionally made some small mistakes and the administrator punished her to clean the toilets, she didn't resist. Many times, he would secretly help her clean the toilets. He really wanted to ask her why she adapted so well. On second thought, he had followed her here to quit the internet and used a method that made people feel like he was crazy. It was obvious that he wasn't any better. Do you want to go out? Vertex. Chapter 23:52. Pan had thought about it. If this school didn't collapse, she would have to find a way to leave. She couldn't possibly stay here forever. Even if she didn't go crazy, she could still accept some things. However, for a young lady to waste her time in a place like this, it would be a waste of her youth. Of course, if this school really collapsed, he would think that it was accumulating good karma. If she really wanted to study in one school and destroy another, he was willing to follow her all the way to school. System. Love makes people crazy. Love makes people perverted. A perfectly fine young man had become perverted for the host. While Pan was still indulging in his fantasy, a group of righteous police uncles rushed into the school and took all the administrators into custody. Of course, the children in the school were taken back by the police cars. When this happened, Pan quickly moved to Tangwa's side. When they got into the car later, he would definitely sit next to her. When they got into the car, he looked at the scene outside the window and said softly, "You've collapsed 4 schools. Now I can interview you. What are your thoughts?" Tangwa looked back at him with a smile. She lowered her eyes and found a comfortable position. Leaning against the back of the seat, she said calmly, "My thoughts are that it's finally collapsed. I knew it would collapse." After saying that, she laughed softly. There was joy in her voice. Qin Pan felt that it was pleasant to hear. Whether it was her words or her laughter, they were all pleasant to the ear. The system felt that although her voice was pleasant and pleasant to the ear, it was a little crazy and perverted. It shuddered. Although the host was not so extreme, she had never been soft-hearted when it came to things she didn't like. The family Tang couple was really not enough for her to torment. She had collapsed 4 schools in a row. When the couple received the call, they would probably be so worried that their eyebrows would disappear. What's next? Qin Pan asked softly. You've missed your final exams. This semester, you've failed all your subjects. If you don't go back to school and fail all your subjects, you won't be able to graduate. There's no make-up exams. The competition in society is so fierce now. Have you planned for the future? In fact, Qin Pan almost couldn't control himself and said that even if she failed all her courses, couldn't graduate, and couldn't find a job in the future, he could still support her. There was no need to worry about these at all. But on second thought, she was so smart. She knew how to sing and play all kinds of musical instruments. It was actually very easy for her to survive in this society. However, he thought of her parents. This time, after the incident at school, he wondered if they had decided to send her to a drug rehabilitation school. My parents might continue to find me a school to quit internet addiction. Tanghua looked up and blinked. No matter how much I think about it, it's useless. They just think that I'm going online and doing a live broadcast is immoral and embarrassing them. I don't want to go back to my hometown. I don't want to take the public exam. I want to go to the bank. I want to be a teacher in a school, and I don't want to obey any of their arrangements. They will think that I am disobedient and have learned bad things from the internet. Qin Pan's heart ached for her. You're a human being, not their puppet. You should be in control of your own life, understand? When Tanghua heard this, she knew that he had misunderstood. He misunderstood that she chose not to object because she cared about her parents. I know. Let's wait a little longer. The Peak. Chapter 23:53. Qin Pan didn't know what she meant by wait a little longer. He only knew that after hearing about her experience, he felt uncomfortable and a little depressed. He really wanted to save her from that torturous place. If she asked for his help, he would do whatever it took to take her away and give her a piece of free blue sky. But she didn't seem to have that intention. This made him uncomfortable and gave him a headache. No wonder she refused to have her wings cut off by her parents in the name of love. They didn't care about her pain and insisted on tying a kite string to her so that they could control her anytime and anywhere. What gave him a headache was that she didn't run away and directly cut off the kite string. Some of the parents of the students in the schools that collapsed previously repented and reconsidered their relationship with their children. Some of the parents didn't repent and instead blamed others for being nosy. Some of the smarter children chose to seek help from society and seek protection. They succeeded and were all arranged to go to another school. When Qin Pan said this, he looked at her eagerly, as if to tell her, "Look, those who are younger than you, who are still underage, know how to fight for their own interests and obtain themselves. Only you are so silly." Tanghua felt uncomfortable under his gaze. She was the one who was wronged. So why did he have to look so pitiful and aggrieved? This conversation didn't end well in the end. Qin Pan chose to accept his fate. After knowing that Tanghua was brought back by the family Tang couple, she was no different from before. He texted her goodbye. "I have something to do, but if you need anything, you can call me or send me a message anytime. I will reply as soon as possible." No matter how busy he was at that time, he added in his heart. As for what Qin Pan was going to do, of course, it was to take care of his shop. He was going to hire a few more people and open a shop online or something. He only sold good things and didn't sell fake goods. The shop could definitely be built slowly. If it was an online shop, the cost would be lower. Of course, the shop outside the school was still profitable, so he didn't plan to close it. It would take at least 2 months to open an online shop, check the supply of goods, hire people, and train them. But he compressed the time to less than a month. He was so tired that he lost a lot of weight. Fortunately, he and Jean Cho kept in touch every day recently. He had just finished his work when he received a message from her. Her parents had found another school for her. Qin Pan didn't know what to say in the face of such parents who refused to give up on their child's internet education. But she didn't want to run away from all this. Instead, she was looking forward to going to the school. He was a little more certain that she wanted to destroy the fifth school. Qin Pan first asked about the situation, then quickly contacted the couple from before. At the same time, he handed over the online shop and the shop outside the school to his subordinates to manage. It just so happened that it was a holiday now. He called his parents and found an excuse to say that he would not go abroad to accompany them this year. Then his mother asked, "Are you going to spend the holidays with your girlfriend?" "That's right. Our Pan has never had a girlfriend before. He always goes abroad to accompany us during the holidays. This time, he actually didn't come. This kid must be in love and has found a girl he likes. Isn't that right, Pan?" Vertex. Chapter 23:54. Qin Pan stuttered, trying to cover it up. "She's not my girlfriend yet." "Oh." Mother Qin dragged her voice. "So you have a girl you like and are chasing after her, right?" Qin Pan did not answer Mother Qin's teasing seriously, but he did not deny it either. His parents did not know him well enough to not deny it, so it must be true. Since their son had a girl he liked, how could they force him to go abroad to accompany them? Chasing after his future wife was the most important thing. His parents were very supportive of Qin Pan's awakening, but Qin Pan still did not dare to tell them what he was going to do now. He was not afraid that they would stop him, but he was afraid that they would treat him as a joke and tell his relatives and friends. If that happened, he would not be able to live in his circle of friends anymore. After everything was arranged, Qin Pan and the couple who were pretending to be his parents drove to the school where Tanghua was currently staying. Yesterday, Tanghua had already been sent to the hospital. In the face of Qin Pan's persistence in chasing her to the school, the system felt that this shy and cute boy persona was simply wasted by this shameless guy. Seriously, no matter what persona he was, he could be so shameless to the extreme. It had never heard of anyone chasing their wife all the way to the school where she was staying. Shameless, shameless, really shameless. In this school, Qin Pan would sit in front of her during meals every day and ask her what she wanted and what she wanted to eat. If she needed anything, he would ask the couple who were pretending to be his parents to prepare it when he met them. System. I've been a system for many years, but I've never seen anyone chase someone like this. At first, Tanghua was still polite. Later, perhaps because they became familiar with each other, she did not hold back anymore and asked him to buy all kinds of snacks for her. The school administrator saw the interaction between the two of them. Because Qin Pan's parents were generous and had a special request, they were not allowed to be rough with their son. In addition, they would come to visit Qin Pan once every 3 to 5 days. Even if the administrator wanted to be rough with him, he was not allowed to do so. Moreover, Tanghua and Qin Pan were very obedient, as if they really treated this school as an ordinary one. Other than the occasional interaction during meals and the snacks Qin Pan gave her, there did not seem to be any other trouble. They chose to turn a blind eye to it. Now that things were tense, even if they occasionally caught those who ran away, they did not dare to be rough outside for fear of being caught. It was fine if it was just a day or two, but after a long time, the people here were the kind of people who were used to trampling on these schools. Those who wanted to escape had angered them. How could they hold back and not take action? Then, when they took action, it was basically over. Once they took action, the Today's Watch started to broadcast. Qin Pan and Tanghua stayed in this school for more than a month. After all, now that everyone was on high alert, it was not good to broadcast exciting scenes. Only these scenes could let everyone know that this school was the same as the previous schools. Only these scenes would cause a group attack and force them to disband. As a result, Tanghua successfully broke down the 5th anti-internet addiction school. Later, Tanghua stayed in these two schools for a long time. Therefore, the money was not returned. Even if they asked for it, the school had already spent all the money. How could they return it? Peak. Chapter 23:55. In the living room, Father Tang and Mother Tang were having dinner. When they saw Tanghua eating in silence, their brows furrowed so much that they could squash a mosquito. The school was good, but why was it that every time she went to one school, it would collapse? Can't you stop using the internet? Even if Tanghua behaved obediently now, they would never believe that she didn't use the internet. At this moment, the couple suddenly remembered that they hadn't talked to each other for a long time. Father Tang coughed lightly and said, "I'll ask around another day and choose a suitable school for you. No matter what, the teachers at the school will believe that you've really quit and become obedient. Only then will we believe you. As for the university, I've already applied for a long leave for you. You can go back to school when you've become obedient." This time, Mother Tang didn't say anything. In the past few months, the family had spent almost 100,000 yuan in order to go to that school. Although the couple had a decent income, money didn't come from nowhere. Although they had saved a lot of money over the years, spending it like water made her heart ache a little. If spending it was useful, then it would be fine. Now that they had spent so much money, they didn't have a good relationship with their daughter, and the schools were collapsing one after another. This made Mother Tang a little distrustful of these schools. If they were so formal, how could they collapse just like that? But Mother Tang didn't think it was right to just let Tangwa go and not let her quit. She had already gone astray. If they didn't keep her in check, she would definitely do that live stream and lead other people astray. Father Tang and Mother Tang weren't very educated. The only reason they were able to work in a formal unit was because they had been lucky in the past. Back then, it was amazing to have a university student, and those who got into a vocational school were assigned jobs. At that time, the two of them were lucky and got into a formal unit. They worked there for the rest of their lives. They had always been stubborn in their own way of thinking. Every day, they did the same thing. They worked with people of the same age and gossiped about things that interested them. They treated the changes in the outside world as a scourge. Because they didn't have much contact with computers, they didn't know how good the internet was and how much it affected human life. In the next few years, the internet would take up most of human life. At that time, even middle-aged and old people would be holding their phones, chatting, doing WeChat business, and creating all kinds of fancy groups and moments to occupy their lives. Tangwa didn't want to talk to them about this. Didn't they see the internet as a scourge? Then, just wait to be eliminated. Why don't we think of something else? I don't think those online schools are very reliable. Mrs. Tang couldn't help but complain. We've already changed 5 schools, and none of them have lasted long. The two of them discussed without restraint. Tangwa ate her food. Anyway, no matter what they decided, they would be the ones being tortured in the end. They would be spending their money. Let's try another one. This was Father Tang's final decision. He had the final say in the family. Even though Mrs. Tang was dissatisfied, she didn't dare to refute and could only nod in agreement. Half a month later, Tangwa was sent to an online school far away from her home. It was 2 provinces away. In order to get her to quit the internet, this couple was really willing to do it. Peak. Chapter 2356. It didn't matter. She wouldn't be spending her money anyway. She heard that this school was famous. Of course, the tuition was very expensive. Father Tang said that this was the last school. If it didn't work, they would think of other ways. Of course, this school's tuition was also the most expensive. In any case, a year's worth of expenses would cost at least 100,000. Moreover, Father Tang had been paying for a year. The school also repeatedly assured that this school would be very formal and would definitely not be like the other small schools. There would definitely not be corporal punishment, electric batons, or insults. Father Tang didn't mind this at all. Instead, he asked in a serious tone, "As long as your school can continue to operate and doesn't collapse like what the news says, it's fine." His words made the smiles of the people in the school stiffen. In the end, Tangwa was accepted by this school and began her journey to the 6th school. On the 3rd day, Chin Pan snuck over and even brought her a bag of snacks that she liked. Faced with this person who tirelessly chased after her, Tangwa held her face after they finished eating in the cafeteria. "Senior, it's not good for you to keep chasing after me like this. School is about to start. Aren't you going to school? If it's not over by the time school starts, I'll apply for a part-time job and say that I want to start my own business. In the future, I'll just go back and take my exams." He was really starting his own business. He wasn't lying. Now that the shops under his name had expanded, the online shop had also expanded by several times. His reputation was very good, and everyone was willing to buy from him. He even applied for a public account and hired people to manage it. He was thinking more long-term. When he was really free in the future, he would produce his own products. He could turn that online shop into a flagship store for his products or something. Then, he would let others come to him to stock up or something. Of course, he didn't know when she would end. I have a feeling that the sick school is going to collapse, Chinpan said seriously. Tangwa blinked and nodded. Senior, you're really smart. It's really going to collapse. A month later, the biggest school in a certain province collapsed. This school seemed to have no problems, but in reality, there were many problems. The Today's Highlights live stream room exposed all the dirt that was hidden behind this online school, making the netizens eat a lot of melons. Because there had been too many incidents in these schools recently, many reporters found out about some of these schools and actually went there to wait. They could often take pictures of the children who were sent to these schools by their parents and struggling. When the pictures were posted, it caused a sensation. Tangwa and Xiaopan's parents were temporarily taken in by the local police's station. After asking for their names and addresses, the police officers, they asked, "You're all adults and should have your own freedoms. Once you get your IDs, you have the right to control your own life." The underlying meaning was, don't let your parents do whatever they want. If you really can't win, once you get your ID card, your legs will be on your body. Can't you still go and live your own life? Tang, SD Chin's SS it was as if he wanted to be free too, but his freedom seemed to be with her. When Mr. and Mrs. Tang received the news that the school had collapsed again, they forgot to speak for a moment. They only responded and said that they would go and pick them up immediately. They wanted Tangwa to come back on her own, but they had her IDs. Actually, the police had said that they could send them home, but Tangwa refused. "If I go home on my own, they'll definitely say that I'm disobedient," Tangwa said seriously. "Let's wait for them to come and pick us up. They'll be happy to do so." Chinpan sat beside her and poured her a cup of hot water. He pondered over the meaning of her words. The Peak. Chapter 23:57. Because this matter was so serious, when Mr. and Mrs. Tang received the call, there were no more flights for that day. They had no choice but to buy a flight for the next day. The next day, they got off the plane and hurriedly took a taxi to the police station. When they arrived here, they didn't even have the chance to talk to Tangwa before they were fiercely criticized and educated. The general idea was that Tangwa was already an adult and had the right to live her own life. As parents, even if they were not satisfied with what their child wanted to do, as long as the child did not do anything illegal, they had no right to force her to do anything that was in line with socialist values. For example, confiscating an adult's identity card and sending the child to a school to abstain from online gambling were unacceptable. This matter was very troublesome for the police. They were parents and children, so Tangwa did not ask for help. For an adult like Tangwa, as long as she asked for help and got her own identity card, even if there were many problems in her life in the future, at least she would not have to listen to her parents and be sent to a school to abstain from online gambling. The current situation was that they did not know that Tangwa had already gone to 6 schools to abstain from online gambling. If they had known, they might not have pitted Tangwa. After a good round of criticism, the couple only felt embarrassed. But the person criticizing them in front of them was the police. No matter how dissatisfied they were, they could only accept it. When they led Tangwa out of the police station, their expressions were very ugly. On the way back, the couple did not say a word. They only cared about taking a taxi, buying tickets, and going home. They took the plane back. When they arrived home, it was almost 10:00 at night. Mrs. Tang casually cooked some noodles to eat and let Tangwa go back to her room to sleep. As for the police's criticism, it was impossible for them to listen. Tangwa was their daughter, and she had not learned well yet. How could they give her freedom and her identity card so that she could continue to be addicted to the internet and do live broadcasts to teach bad people? Even though the school had caused such a big commotion, the couple did not go online to watch the drama. Their understanding of the collapse of the Jedong school was basically based on what they saw on TV and in the newspapers. Mobile phones had just entered the smartphone era, but most people who were good at using smartphones were the younger generation. People like Father Tang and Mother Tang were stubborn and regarded the internet as a scourge. They were unwilling to accept new things. Actually, they weren't that averse to computers. As far as they knew, computers were used for work and typing. They were not like Tangwa, who used them for live streaming and teaching bad guys. When adults use computers, it means that they use them for work. When children use computers, they must be addicted to the internet or games. This was the understanding of the couple. Now, they could not raise their heads in front of their relatives. Tangwa had changed so many schools to quit internet addiction, but there was still no result. One by one, the schools closed down and became a joke among their relatives. After rushing for half a day, Tangwa was very tired. After eating, she went back to her room to sleep with a clear conscience. As for what to do next, that was something for the couple to consider. If they like to mess around, then let them mess around. He heard that the school hadn't refunded the money to them yet. Now that she was back, given the complexity of the school, whether the money could be refunded was still a problem. Vertex. Chapter 23:58. The couple was frowning in the living room, not knowing what to do. Tangwa was already lying comfortably on the bed. Just as she closed her eyes, Chin Pan's message came. Chin Pan, are you home? Tangwa, I'm home. Chin Pan, are your parents still planning to send you to a school? Tangwa, I don't know. I'm going back to my room. They're discussing it outside. Chin Pan, do you have any plans after this? Are you still going back to school? Tangwa, they've been keeping my ID. I think they're still going to do something about it. After sending the message, Chin Pan was silent for a minute. A minute later, Chin Pan sent another message. Chin Pan, if it's possible, can you let me know when you're free? If you need any help, you can look for me. After sending this message, Chin Pan added, I'm always here. As long as she needed him, he would always be there. He was not an idiot. On the contrary, he had a very high IQ. He also followed Tangwa to 2 schools to get rid of the internet. Why is it that every time she went to a school to get rid of the internet, it would collapse without a sound? He had said that she had the constitution to go to a school, but it was just a joke. There were no such coincidences in the world. The other schools did not collapse, but only the one she went to did. Chin Pan did not guess that Tangwa had a miracle or something like the system. His guess was that someone was helping Tangwa behind the scenes. Perhaps that person had known about her experience from the beginning and wanted to expose the darkness of those schools to warn society and muddle-headed parents. In fact, most parents still love their children. It was just that the way they loved them was wrong. Parents like Tangwa's parents, for the sake of their own face, didn't realize their mistakes. Only a small number of them didn't realize their mistakes. Not to mention anything else, because 5 or 6 schools had collapsed in just a few months, the news about these schools kept coming in waves. This made many parents realize that sending their children to a school was not a permanent solution. If they did not handle it well, they could even ruin their children's lives. Now, after many parents took their children back, they realized many of their mistakes and were slowly mending their relationship with their children. As for those who were stubborn, there were fewer of them. After going out, the number of children who did not resist in the face of stubborn parents was very small. There was probably only one case like Tangwa's. Looking at Chin Pan's message, Tangwa replied, I want them to send me to the school to stop internet addiction again. Senior, do you still want to come? Chin Pan replied without hesitation, yes. Tangwa, why? This question stumped Chin Pan all of a sudden. Although he was willing to do many things for her, he was still a little embarrassed to admit some things personally. Furthermore, he felt that it was inappropriate to say such things at this moment. If that day really came, he wanted to say it in front of her. Therefore, Chin Pan replied, when you return to school, I'll tell you in person. When Tangwa saw this, she almost laughed out loud. Okay, then you can tell me when I go back to school. Senior, I'm really looking forward to what you'll tell me. Chin Pan looked at this sentence, and his heart suddenly jumped. Even though she was not in front of him, his ears were still a little hot. Vertex. Chapter 23:59. So, what was he going to say to her when she returned to school? He didn't know when she would come out, but he still had plenty of time to prepare. That night, the couple didn't sleep at all in the living room. They kept thinking about what to do with Tangwa. Chin Pan didn't sleep either. He spent the whole night thinking about how to express what he wanted to say to her when she returned to school. Excitement, agitation, nervousness, helplessness. All sorts of complicated emotions wormed their way into his head, making it a mess. Tangua was different. She slept very well that night. System. Yeah, how could it not be good? First, she tormented the couple. Then, she teased that guy for a while. She teased him so much that he probably couldn't sleep the whole night. His great host must have fallen asleep contentedly. Tangua woke up at 8 in the morning. She heard some noise in the living room. It seemed like there were quite a few people talking. Even if it was a Saturday and the couple didn't have to go to work, they shouldn't have had time to entertain guests or find someone to party with, right? So, this person couldn't have been invited by the couple. Even if they were worried about their daughter's bad grades, they couldn't have made a big deal out of it. After all, they were very prideful. They didn't tell anyone about the school they found for her. Only her father's distant cousin-in-law knew about it. After all, her cousin-in-law had introduced a few of the schools before. As for the other schools, her parents had found them themselves. As she listened to the noise in the living room, Tangua tidied herself up and opened the door. In an instant, everyone's gaze fell on her. Mother Tang's face fell when she saw her come out. She couldn't just let Tangua go in front of so many people. Tangua stood at the door and felt these people sizing her up. She saw that Father and Mother Tang's faces didn't look good. She knew that these people most likely knew something and were here to watch the show. Perhaps they were just giving Father and Mother Tang all sorts of ideas to discipline her. Since that was the case, she didn't want to greet them. After all, she had gone through 6 schools. Even if she didn't go crazy, her personality must have changed. For example, she had become quiet and didn't like to greet people. She wasn't making this up. It was something that some of the children who had graduated from the school had shown. Tangua used to call them sweetly when she saw them, but now she was silent. She didn't greet them or smile when she saw them. The relatives started to discuss in low voices again. Sure enough, the internet is harmful. Yeah, Xiaoguo was so cute back then. In the past, he used to call me auntie whenever he saw me. Now, he's so dull. He doesn't even greet us when he sees us. It must be because he's addicted to the internet. I heard that children nowadays touch the computer with their hands. Their eyes can't wait to drill into the computer. They can't seem to hear anyone calling them. Zhengbua and his wife have worked hard for half their lives for this child. Yet they still have to worry so much. That's why this child has to be taught well from a young age. Once he takes the wrong path, there's no turning back. The relatives all criticized Tangua and said that they felt sorry for the couple. The couple originally didn't have anything against Tangua. They thought that as long as they could think of a way to make her obedient, it would be fine. Now that she had embarrassed them in front of their relatives, their expressions didn't look good. At the peak. Chapter 2360. In the end, they joined their relatives in criticizing Tangua, who was standing at the door of the room. They said that she was unfilial, disobedient, addicted to the internet, and now she was teaching others the wrong things. In order to prevent her from teaching others the wrong things, in order to turn her around, they were willing to do whatever it took. It was as if they were very noble people. Tangua finally lifted her head and looked at them calmly. You treat the internet as a scourge. If you are so capable, then don't go online for the rest of your lives. These words ignited a firecracker. Everyone started lecturing Tangua in all sorts of ways. They said that she was disrespectful to her elders and that she had indeed been led astray. If it had been the original owner, she would have been furious. But to Tangua, these words were nothing more than a breeze. She didn't mind at all. She just wanted to provoke the couple and see what else they could do to get along. I think we should send her to a professional school. Zhengbua, the two of you have to go to work and can't watch her all the time. She's almost 20 now. If she doesn't learn well, what will happen to her in the future? This relative's words struck a chord in the couple's heart. Yes, if this continued, they couldn't watch her all the time. Their pride in the past had now become a disgrace. Who would feel good about that? If it weren't for the fact that they had raised her for so many years and their pride, they really wouldn't have wanted this daughter anymore. She had completely embarrassed them. She's still going to school? Mrs. Tang was very resistant to this suggestion. She had already ruined 6 schools. She even suspected that her family's jinx was a jinx. Otherwise, why would she ruin a school every time she went to a school? Of course, this time, we'll help the two of you. We'll definitely find the most suitable school for Xiaoguo. Under the kind persuasion of all the relatives, the couple agreed. Tangguo was so bored that she turned around and went back to her room, ignoring them. Seeing this, the couple gritted their teeth and took out all their savings, preparing to choose the most formal school for her to quit internet addiction. Have you collected the list of quitting internet schools in the country? Yes, Madam Host. Even if you don't go to school in the future, you can still make a living by streaming in these schools. If these schools heard this, they would probably be angered to death. The fans in today's highlights live stream came from all over the country, and some of them were very rich. Now that he had exposed 6 schools, was he really giving away so many gifts just to make a living? A week later, the couple received news that they might not be able to get their 100,000 yuan back. Regarding this, the two of them were unable to voice out their bitterness. Until the start of university, they still hadn't decided which school to send Tangguo to. After thinking for a long time, they gritted their teeth and chose the nearest and most expensive school. They didn't believe that this school would collapse. If it really collapsed, they wouldn't send her to any school to quit the internet. After signing the contract, Father Tang's cold voice resounded, "If she's still useless, we can only go up to the heavens and decide that she won't learn well. We don't need to care about her anymore." It was clearly the school's fault, but they blamed everything on Tangguo. Vertex. Chapter 2361. But it didn't matter. Tangguo didn't mind at all. She was very happy that they were unhappy. The school service was very good. They even sent people to pick her up. When they thought she was qualified, they would inform her parents and send her back. When the school staff interacted with Father Tang, they thought that his daughter was very disobedient and that there might be all kinds of conflicts, so they prepared a lot to prevent her from running away. Even in the neighborhood where Tangguo lived, they arranged for people to block the way to prevent her from running away when she saw that something was wrong. They were professionals and guaranteed that she wouldn't be able to run away. When they arrived at Tangguo's house, the couple opened the door and invited them in. Tangguo sat in the living room with a bag on her back. Father Tang's face darkened. "Then I'll leave my daughter to you. We picked your school out of thousands of people. I hope you don't disappoint me." "Mr. Tang, don't worry. We promise that after a year, we'll return you a well-behaved and obedient daughter who won't be addicted to the internet anymore." "That had better be the case." Father Tang let out a long breath and paused for a few seconds. He asked in a low voice, "I asked someone to check. You've been here for 7 or 8 years. You're the oldest school to quit the internet. So, you won't suddenly close down, right?" Although the situation wasn't right, Tangguo couldn't help but laugh. Of course, she didn't laugh out loud, but there was a slight smile on her face. Not only did she laugh, she even said, "Who knows? Maybe I'll close down as I study. So many other schools have been closed down by me. Maybe this school will be the same." Father Tang's face darkened. "Shut up. You have no right to speak here. Listen to the school's instructions." Tangguo kept quiet. Anyway, the school was going to close down. There was no need to say so much. On the other hand, the people who came to pick up Tangguo looked at each other and thought about how 6 schools had collapsed in succession. Actually, they were also scared out of their wits. However, everyone thought that those schools could be filmed and broadcast live because someone took the opportunity to sneak in. The schools themselves didn't have proper security measures, but their school was different. Other than the school that was mainly open to the public, they actually had a very secretive branch. The children in charge of the management of this school district were the ones who had just joined, and there were some troublemakers. When these children learned their lesson, they would be arranged to the main campus. They also welcomed all kinds of reporters to interview and observe the campus. It was guaranteed to be the most formal and compliant school in the country. The children in this school were no different from ordinary schools. They could learn all kinds of talents. In short, no matter how hard they investigated, it was impossible to find any problems. However, when Father Tang asked if the school would collapse, their smiles were still very stiff, but they still answered verbally, "Mr. Tang, don't worry. Our school has been built for so many years, so there definitely won't be any problems in management. If you're really worried, you can visit our school." Father Tang pondered for a moment and was a little worried. After discussing it with Mother Tang, they decided to accompany Tanghua to her classes for 2 days. He was not worried about what would happen to Tanghua. What could a malignant tumor like her, who had ruined 6 schools, do? He was afraid that the people in the school would know that Tanghua had destroyed 6 schools. Fortunately, Tanghua had interjected earlier, so the other party did not pay attention to this. Vertex. Chapter 2362. As long as the school didn't collapse, he would wait for the results a year later. From the way Tanghua spoke just now, it was obvious that she didn't care about him as a parent. This daughter of his was becoming more and more disobedient and unfilial. How could he have such a daughter? He didn't know what sins she had committed in her previous life. As long as the school didn't collapse, he was relieved. When Qinpan found out that Tanghua was going to be sent to a certain school, the first thing that came to his mind was, I wonder how long this school can last. She must be very willing to go to this school, right? Now, he was certain that the people behind her had worked together with her to bring down those schools to quit internet addiction. So he wasn't that worried about her safety, but this couldn't stop him from accompanying her to the school. It was also very interesting to witness the collapse of a school for internet abstinence. Tanghua, my dad will accompany me for a few days. He will only go back when he thinks that the school won't collapse. Senior, if you want to come back in a few days. I will send you a message when he leaves. Qinpan looked at the text with a complicated expression. When he saw that she would send him a message, he happily replied, Okay, I will wait for your message. What do you want to eat? I will bring some for you when I come in. Tanghua didn't stand on ceremony. I want the fruits of the season, hand-shredded dried beef, cold rabbit. The system watched silently from the side as Tanghua read out the names one by one. Even though it was a system, it was hungry. Raising a big cutie was really a good thing. There were so many delicious things to eat in the school. Father Tang accompanied him for 3 days. He felt that this school was different from the flirtatious and cheap schools in the past. When he walked in, he felt that there was a formal atmosphere. Everything was good in this school. The teachers were gentle to the students. Look at how obedient those schools were. They must have been influenced by such an atmosphere. In the end, he went back with peace of mind. As soon as Father Tang left, Qinpan was sent to a school for internet abstinence with bags of various sizes. It was also the first time the school had received a customer like Qinpan's parents. They would come over every 3 to 5 days to check on the situation. Not only did they ask Qinpan to bring in a lot of food, they even told the school that they were not allowed to bully their son. They sent him here just to cut him off from the internet. The outside world was filled with the internet. That was why he chose their school. Although the request was a little strange, the school wouldn't care so much if it could make money. For people like Qinpan, they knew that it would be fine to just leave him in the main campus. As for the school districts, they would still observe. If there were disobedient newcomers, they would send them over to be taught a lesson. The education method of the main campus was still relatively mild. Although it was said to be gentle, which child who was forcibly sent here would like to stay here forever and not touch the internet? Moreover, not all of the people sent here were addicted to online games. There were all kinds of reasons. It wasn't that serious in itself, but in the eyes of the parents, it became especially serious. The child was a little playful and a little procrastinating. They all thought that the child was immature. It was obvious that they didn't have the patience to educate them, so they could only spend money to let the school manage them. At the end of the day, they didn't have the ability to teach their children, nor were they prepared to be parents. Vertex. Chapter 2363. When the child was born and grew up to be different from what they had expected, they would be disappointed. After the disappointment, they would naturally be dissatisfied. If the child were to do something that went against their arrangements, it would be like poking a hornet's nest. In any case, if the child had any problems, it would not be the parent's problem. If it was not the child's problem, it would be the school's problem. If it was not the school's problem, it would be the society's problem. If it was not the society's problem, it must be that the child had come into contact with something bad. These things that led the children astray, regardless of whether they had a good side or not, should be eliminated directly. Many parents believe that if they eliminated all these bad things, their children would definitely be able to grow up healthily and become what they had imagined. In their dreams. Time passed slowly. In a flash, 3 months had passed. Tangwa ate and drank well in the school. She had a very good relationship with the male student named Chinpan. The people in the school were puzzled. They had run this school for so many years, but they had never met such a strange student. Chinpan did not need to be mentioned. With his parents' instructions, the treatment he received was definitely different. Tangwa's parents were similar to other parents. Why did she perform so well in such a school? She was happy every day and did not have any intention of resisting at all. Although they were curious, they did not ask. After so much time had passed, the viewers in the Today's Highlights live streaming room came to report almost every day. Even though 3 months had passed, they were not worried at all. What's the hurry? There are so many schools that quit internet. Maybe the streamer is checking out the spots. If she wants the live streaming to be effective, she must have prepared a lot. Yes. Look at the images that the streamer showed us before. Not only was the image quality clear, but the camera was also very stable. This means that the equipment is advanced. She must have made a lot of careful preparations to be able to show us the most realistic school in that kind of environment. Just wait. The streamer does not announce the live streaming time now mainly because she is afraid that those schools will be prepared. If she announces it, those schools will keep an eye on this place and definitely come up with corresponding countermeasures. It was 7 o'clock in the evening. The Today's Highlights live streaming room appeared without warning. When the netizens all over the country received the live streaming notification, no matter what they were doing at the time, except for life and death matters, they immediately took out their phones or computers to watch it. Hello, everyone. We meet again after 3 months. We've been preparing for a long time this time, but today's content won't disappoint you. Host, we don't mind at all. As long as you're still broadcasting, we'll come and watch. What was there to mind? This streamer was really awesome. She had done things that they didn't dare to do. She was simply their idol. Even though many people hated her for being a busybody, and those children who had encountered such things were grateful to her. Some of the repentant parents had changed from being angry at the beginning to supporting her now. If it wasn't for her, how would they know that children weren't taught that way? Many children developed various psychological problems after they were brought back. If they were not counseled in time, their lives would be ruined. In that case, I won't waste any more words with you. Take a look for yourselves. Vertex. Chapter 2364. As his voice fell, everyone's attention was immediately drawn to the screen. It wasn't too different from the previous ones. They were already numb to it, but they still wanted to see it. They wanted to see the ending. They wanted to see these people get caught by the police. They wanted to see these people panic and claim that they didn't do it. In the end, they were slapped in the face by the evidence and taken away with pale faces. The ending wasn't any different. In fact, this time, they acted quickly. In just 2 hours, everything was over. The reason it was done so quickly was because the live broadcast showed the full picture of the school, its address, and its entrance. They didn't even have to go through the trouble of investigating. They just had to drive over. More than an hour was enough for the images shown in the live broadcast to be used as evidence. Of course, there was a lot of evidence that could cause a school to collapse. It was just that they didn't discuss it openly. When Father and Mother Tang received the phone call to pick up Tangwa, they were speechless and mentally exhausted. I already said that this type of school isn't proper. If it was, it wouldn't have collapsed so easily. Look at those primary schools, middle schools, high schools, and proper universities. Even if a few things happen and a few students die every year, the school still doesn't collapse and continues to operate. So what you're saying is that we sent that unfilial daughter to a school, and now that the school has collapsed, you're blaming me. Father Tang also lost his temper. If it wasn't for the sake of making her better, would I have spent so much money to send her there? Now that 7 schools have collapsed, people are becoming more and more disobedient. To be honest, he didn't want this daughter of his anymore. Mother Tang also felt bitter. It's already been 3 months. Our $100,000 has probably gone down the drain again. Although the couple had saved a lot of money, they were still heartbroken that they had spent $200,000 to $300,000 in such a short period of time. In the beginning, they didn't like Tangwa doing live broadcasts, even if she earned some money, because they thought that live broadcasts weren't proper and taught bad people. In their eyes, live broadcasts were the same as selling goods. For people like them, working in a proper company, they could still save a lot of money. They had a stable salary and good benefits. Wasn't that good? What do we do now? Tangwa was still a little afraid in front of Father Tang. She was used to him making decisions her whole life. Father Tang sat on the sofa and rubbed his forehead. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Get some rest first. All right. Obviously, the couple was also tired from the torment and did not want to rush over overnight at all. After tossing and turning for so long, there were no results at all. They had been full of confidence at the beginning, but now they were extremely disappointed. They were tired. If he had known that spending so much money was useless, he would have just ignored it. The next day, when the two of them woke up, Mrs. Tang went to buy groceries first. Mr. Tang didn't say anything. She didn't want to bring Tangwa home in a hurry. When his daughter came back, his relatives would probably swarm over to ask about the situation. Just thinking about it made him feel embarrassed. On the way back from grocery shopping, Mrs. Tang was carrying a lot of groceries. She felt uneasy and fell. The tofu in the basket fell out and rolled onto the ground. It was smashed and could not be eaten anymore. There were also a few apples and tomatoes that rolled out. Mrs. Tang fell early in the morning. The more she thought about what had happened, the more upset and wronged she felt. Vertex. Chapter 2365. Auntie, are you okay? Just then, a young girl in her 20s came over and helped Mrs. Tang pick up the apples and tomatoes. She then helped her up. Auntie, be careful where you walk. Thank you, miss. It's okay. Auntie went home early from grocery shopping. It's the weekend. Didn't you ask your children to accompany you? They're usually busy. You should have time this weekend. Mrs. Tang heard this and did not mention Tangwa's situation. She only said, young people have their own things to do and are very busy. How can they have time to go grocery shopping with me? No matter how busy they are, they still have to spend time with their parents on the weekend. Unlike me, my parents passed away early, and I didn't even have the chance to spend time with them. Now, on the weekends, I like to go out and see people my parents' age. It reminds me of when they were alive. Not all young people are as sensible as you. For example, her daughter had been led astray by the internet. After so many months, she was neither cold nor warm to them. People often said that people who were picked up from the streets could not be raised well. Mrs. Tang saw that her own daughter had been led astray and was still not raised well. Later, Mrs. Tang found out that this young girl was called Lin Yuhong. Because she was worried about her, Lin Yuhong insisted on sending her home. After being sent home, they chatted on the way home. Mrs. Tang could not help but ask Lin Yuhong to stay for dinner. Lin Yuhong was very good at talking. With just a few words, she was able to make the couple laugh. The meal was very harmonious. So much so that the couple forgot about Tangwa's situation. The next day, Lin Yuhong came again. She said that she wanted to thank them for letting her experience what it was like to eat with her parents. She brought them all kinds of gifts. Because of this, the couple became more and more intimate with her. Unknowingly, the two of them told him about their relationship with their daughter. Lin Yuhong persuaded them that children had their own blessings. Even if they did not understand now, they would understand their kindness in the future. She also persuaded them that holding on to Tangwa's identity card and restricting her freedom was not a solution at all. It would only cause them to drift apart. Instead of spending money to find a school, it was better to let her go out on her own. When she suffered, she would then know how good a family was and how good her parents were to her. If she did not learn her lesson, she would never repent. Only when she truly learned her lesson and suffered would she understand their good intentions. The two of them seemed to have been enlightened. That seemed to be the case. All this time, they had been trying to stop Tangwa, restricting her freedom and preventing her from coming into contact with those things. Because now that she had obtained the benefits, their attempts to stop her were useless. If they simply ignored her and let her fend for herself outside for a while, she would naturally return to their side and listen to them when she suffered in the future. After that, they went to pick up Tanghua with Lin Yuhong. Tanghua couldn't help but take a second look at Lin Yuhong, who had suddenly appeared beside father and mother Tang. Are you Tanghua? Annie Zhang has told me everything. Lin Yuhong held Tanghua's hand enthusiastically and took out an ID card from her wallet. Here, I have persuaded Annie Zhang. They agreed to return the ID card to you and let you go back to school. Don't be willful in the future. When you go out and see the world, you will truly understand that your parents will never harm you. No matter what they do, it is for your own good. Vertex. Chapter 2366. Who are you? Tanghua put away her ID card. Although she didn't care who this young woman was, it wouldn't fit her current persona if she were to be friendly. System. What a joke. His host has always maintained her persona and never violated it. I'm Lin Yuhong. Facing Tanghua's cold face, Lin Yuhong still smiled amiably. You may not be familiar with it. Let's talk while we walk. I've already booked a hotel to welcome you back. I'll send you to school in 2 days, okay? Tanghua's face turned cold. One who was unaccountably solicitous was hiding evil intentions. If Lin Yuhong's target was the family Tang couple, Tanghua sneered in her heart. That would be great. She didn't love her own daughter and liked to invite a wolf into her house. What a show. Why are you always so cold? Father Tang was not satisfied with Tanghua's attitude. Yuhong is talking to you. If it was someone else, you would have offended them. I've taught you to be polite since you were young, but now you've forgotten everything. Uncle Tang, don't say any more. Actually, I can understand why Xiaoguo is unhappy. I'm a little embarrassed to hear you say that. To be honest, I shouldn't have come, right? Lin Yuhong looked apologetic. I'm just a little worried about you. When I see you, I think of my parents. It's a long journey. If there's no young person to take care of you, I don't know what to do if something happens. Look, you should learn from Yuhong. She's so sensible. Tanghua glanced at Lin Yuhong's apologetic expression. No matter what the other party's motive was, she was trying to drive a wedge between them. She might as well go along with her wishes. If you like her, you might as well acknowledge her as your daughter. Whoever becomes your daughter is unlucky. You unfilial daughter, you. Father Tang raised his hand to hit Tanghua, but Lin Yuhong hurriedly stopped him. Uncle Tang, Annie Zhang, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come. If I didn't come, your family would have reunited peacefully. Now, because of an outsider like me, your family is in trouble. I'll leave. I'll leave immediately. Lin Yuhong let go of Father Tang's arm and apologized to Tanghua. I'm sorry. Previously, I saw that uncle and auntie didn't have anyone to take care of them, so I kept in touch. I won't come again in the future. I won't ruin your complete family. With that, Lin Yuhong nodded at Father and Mother Tang and turned to leave. Mrs. Tang and Mr. Tang pulled her back at the same time. Mrs. Tang said, Yuhong, you didn't do anything wrong. Why are you leaving? There aren't many young people as sensible as you. Besides, it's not your fault. It's Xiaoguo's fault. That's right. It's all because of this unfilial daughter who doesn't know any better. Father Tang glanced at Tanghua. Hurry up and apologize to Yuhong. I don't want to, Tanghua said coldly. If you don't apologize today, then get lost immediately and don't ever come home. Tanghua looked up and asked in a serious tone, You're chasing me away because of an outsider? I think you're worse than an outsider. Yuhong even knows about us. We came all the way here to pick you up because she was worried about us. That's why she wanted to follow you. In the end, the moment we arrived, you gave her the cold shoulder. Who are you trying to show this to? Then I'll leave. Tanghua turned to leave. She lowered her head and smiled. Was it really that bad to be so nice to someone for no reason? Not necessarily. Peek. Chapter 2367. Xiaoguo, I'm the one who needs to leave. Come back. Uncle Tang. Annie Zhang, let me go. Ask Xiaoguo to come back. Lin Yuhong said guiltily. Although she said that she wanted to ask Tanghua to come back, she did not move an inch. But Father Tang and Mother Tang were currently in a state of anger. Even if they were sober, it was easy for them to overlook such details and not notice. Who would have thought that someone who treated them so well would have ulterior motives? No need. Ask her to leave. Let's see how she's going to survive on her own, Father Tang said angrily. If she doesn't come back for the rest of her life, I'll pretend I don't have a daughter. It's all my fault. You're not to blame for this. She deserved it. Mother Tang was very disappointed with Tang's behavior. Compared to Lin Yuhong, who was a stranger to them, and the daughter they had raised from a young age, they couldn't even compare to an outsider. In the end, Lin Yuhong had no choice but to send the two of them home. When she arrived home, she saw that they were not in the mood, so she served them tea and cooked for them. For the next few days, Lin Yuhong accompanied the two of them and took care of them like a daughter. Actually, the next day, the two of them were no longer so angry. They were even waiting for Tang to come back and beg them when she couldn't survive on the outside. Without their support, what kind of person would she be able to make a name for herself outside? Once she suffered, she would know that they were the best to her, and she would listen to them obediently. The more they spent time with Lin Yuhong, the more they wished that Lin Yuhong was their daughter. What a filial girl. If they had a daughter like Lin Yuhong in this lifetime, they would feel that their lives were worth it. They dared to say that none of the young people they had met were as good as Lin Yuhong. Half a month later, when they heard that Lin Yuhong was still renting a house outside, the two of them remembered that Tanghua hadn't called them for so long and became angry. So, they tidied up the guest room and asked Lin Yuhong to move in. From that day onwards, Lin Yuhong treated them well and was filial to them as if she was their daughter. Occasionally, they would hear rumors from their relatives and get angry. They said that they treated an outsider better than their daughter. If their daughter hadn't been disobedient, unfilial, and led astray outside, would they have treated an outsider well? They were good to Lin Yuhong because Lin Yuhong was good to them. This feeling was mutual. Lin Yuhong was a little girl who had lost her parents. They understood her longing for family warmth. Besides, she was a little girl who cared about them every day. She bought them fruitcakes and vegetables and cooked for them. On the weekends, he even asked them to eat out. Until now, she had not made any demands of them. Chapter 2368. She even said that even if Tanghua never came back, she was willing to acknowledge them as her parents and take care of them in their old age. The two of them were really touched. They secretly discussed and observed. If Lin Yuhong was always like this, they planned to acknowledge her as their goddaughter. If their biological daughter was sensible and came back, they could accept her. If she didn't want to come back and go against them, she might as well be a filial goddaughter. Actually, the two of them had this idea because they had recently seen many cases where their biological daughter was not as good as their adopted daughter. It wasn't just the news, there were also all kinds of small stories. These cases appeared frequently in their line of sight, but they didn't feel that there was anything wrong. They only felt that in today's society, parents spoiled their biological children and didn't cherish them, resulting in this outcome. The biological children in these cases were basically unfilial in the end. Instead, it was the passers-by, neighbors, adopted, and acknowledged that would be filial and take care of them in their old age. After half a year, Lin Yuhong was the same as before. Nothing had changed. The couple decided to acknowledge her as their goddaughter. Before this, they tried to call Tanghua's phone. When the call got through, a cold voice sounded from the other end. "What's the matter? What's the matter? You can't even bear to call us Dad and Mom?" Father Tang thought about how he was going to have a filial goddaughter soon and felt much better. He called Tanghua not to scare her into going back, but purely to tell her that even if they didn't have her as their biological daughter, they still had someone to take care of them and that they would find someone better than their biological daughter. "All right, don't come back in the future. I'm just informing you that your mom and I are discussing about acknowledging Yuhong as our goddaughter. She will be your godsister in the future." Tanghua paused for a moment before saying, "It's either her or me in the family. I don't agree to it." After a pause, she continued, "If you insist on acknowledging her as your goddaughter, then let's break off our relationship. So be it. Do you really think that I'm a pushover? I really shouldn't have sent you to some school to quit internet addiction. Not only did we waste money, but with your character, no school can teach you anything." Tanghua chuckled. "The school really doesn't have much ability. Don't you know that in the past few months, More than half of the schools across the country have collapsed. Basically, a school would collapse every 3 to 5 days. You can't even protect yourself, yet you dare to help others educate their children. If you don't have the ability, don't take on the porcelain job. Since you're going to have a new daughter, I'll come back another day to move my household registration. If I don't move my household registration, how can it be considered as severing ties? Mr. Tang and Mrs. Tang were furious. Then hurry back and move your household register. I, Tang Jinghua, will never have a daughter like you in this lifetime. That's good. I don't want to have parents like you. My life was almost ruined because of you. Do you know that? No, you shouldn't know. Why do you think you're wrong? Tanghua did not have the slightest intention of showing mercy to her parents. If they did not agree with her, she would fight back. As for who Li Yuhong was, whether she was a swindler or had other motives, she would not be implicated once she changed her household registration. Actually, it wasn't a big deal for her to learn bad things online. Vertex. Almost all the houses in that area had been sold out. She had made the first move, and now she was telling him where he could buy a house to live next door to her. Over the years, he had made some money from running the shop. Although he had to go to the anti-internet school, he had to go to jail. But that was just a small amount of money. It was not important. I'm only moving my household registration there temporarily. I've already consulted them before. My conditions completely meet the criteria for moving household registration. Qinpan felt much better when he heard that she wouldn't be living there anymore. That's right. That district is quite far from here. Although the housing is expensive, I don't think it's suitable for living. He secretly glanced at Tanghua, but unexpectedly, Tanghua suddenly raised her head and looked at him, making him unable to avoid her gaze. Chapter 2370. Senior, I forgot to ask you something. What is it? Didn't you say that you wanted to tell me something when I returned to school? Tanghua asked seriously. Did you forget? No, I didn't forget. Qinpan answered quickly. How could he forget such an important thing? Once she came back, she had to take all kinds of makeup exams, retake the courses that she didn't study, and was busy with those online schools. Then, she did live streams to earn money. He had a lot of money. Although he wasn't the richest, it was more than enough to support her. But he couldn't just say, I have money. You can spend it. That would be too abrupt, and it would make him look stupid. He didn't know if it would make her angry. The main thing was that they weren't in a close relationship, so she might feel uncomfortable. She was so smart, so she probably didn't care. Just a few days after she came back to live stream, her income was already very good. Even if he wanted to give her money, she wouldn't need it. It was so frustrating that she couldn't spend it even if she wanted to. Fortunately, they would go for a meal every day for the rest of her time. Since you didn't forget, take this opportunity to tell me. Here. Can't we do it here? Qinpan looked around. They were by the road, so it wasn't good to talk about that kind of thing. They had to choose a more formal place. He didn't know where he got the courage, but he grabbed Tangwa's hand and pulled her to a restaurant. There weren't many people in the restaurant, so he led her to a good seat. Wait for a moment. Tanghua sat quietly in her seat and waited. Not long after, the restaurant waiter said something to the customers who were eating in the restaurant. Then, the customers nodded with a smile and left with them. Thus, she was the only one in the entire hall. The lights dimmed, and the music started, accompanied by the sound of a live guitar. Then, she saw a figure walk out from the darkness. The sound of the guitar came from that place. She was familiar with this song because she had taught this song to a disciple in the live stream room last month. In order to learn this song, that disciple had given her a series of the most expensive gifts on the platform. He had given her 99 gifts in one go. During that time, she would take some time out of her live stream every day to teach this big shot this song. All the fans in the live broadcast room expressed that they knew how to play the song. However, this big boss seemed to be a little stupid. She had to teach him for a month before he finally learned it. That's right. This big shot's nickname was a string of numbers without a profile picture. He was currently ranked first on her fan gift list. Every time he appeared, the fans in the live stream would warmly shout, "Number Boss is here." In the past, he was bro numbers, but now, he was big numbers. This was because every day he came to Tangwa's live broadcast room, he would definitely send gifts. Every day, he would be at the top of the list. However, Tangwa's way of addressing him was still the same. "Number bro." Listening to the familiar melody, Chin Pan was obviously very nervous, but he seemed to be trying his best to control his heartbeat. His expression was also very serious. However, his red ears indicated that he was excited, nervous, and a little shy. Especially when he saw Tangwa smiling and staring at him without blinking, he almost sang the wrong lyrics. Fortunately, he managed to hold it in and forcefully turn back a note that ran away. This was considered a skill. Peak. Tangwa heard Chin Pan let out a long sigh of relief and said casually, "It's quite nice. I was thinking that if it didn't fit, I wouldn't waste money and would ask you to take me to return it and exchange it for something else." "So this is what a refund means?" Chin Pan revealed a silly smile. He didn't mean to kick him out. The other customers in the restaurant applauded enthusiastically, knowing that this was a success. Especially when they saw Tangwa say that she wanted to return the goods, Chin Pan immediately became nervous. They couldn't help but want to laugh. Fortunately, they knew that this wasn't the right place, so they forced themselves not to laugh. Peak. Chapter 2372. When Chin Pan heard Tangwa say that she wanted to return the goods, he heaved a sigh of relief, which made them laugh again. This young man seemed a little shy. For a shy young man to be so bold to chase after a girl, he must be very courageous. Such a cute young man was really rare. "My dear, if I saw such a cute young man before I met you, the one sitting in front of me might not be you, but the one sitting in front of you now is me, me. The couple next door whispered. After the boy answered, he looked at the girl with an aggrieved expression. But, do you not love me anymore?" Before the girl could react, the boy stood up and hugged her. He kissed her face fiercely. "You're not allowed to not love me. If you don't love me, I'll kiss you until you cry." Childish. "So you really don't love me anymore." When the system saw that the boy was on the verge of collapsing, it subconsciously looked at Chin Pan, who was standing beside Tangwa and holding her little hand. He was staring at the couple with Tangwa. Previously, it had said that it had never seen someone as shameless as this guy, but now it had. That boy was even more shameless. "Dear host, I've found someone even more shameless." Although it was very shameless, the girl was indeed intimidated. She hurriedly threw herself into the boy's arms to comfort him, saying, "In my heart, you are the best. Other people's things are other people's things. Are you jealous of this too? Isn't it just a joke?" "Really? Really? Why would I lie to you? I knew it. You love me the most. Let's eat. I'm really hungry." The boy held the girl's little hand and kissed her fingers. "Why don't you feed me? Otherwise, I won't be able to feel your love." System. Fuck. "Dear host, this guy is so shameless. Hurry up and keep an eye on your Daki. Don't learn bad things from him." Tangwa was expressionless. He's watched the whole thing. He might have learned it. The system was dumbfounded. "What should we do? He's going to learn bad things." Tangwa, "It's okay. As long as he's obedient, he's quite cute when he's shameless." System. "Isn't this taste a little weird? Dear host, where's your integrity?" While eating, Chin Pan would occasionally glance at Tangwa's hand. The system was really a little speechless. When Tangwa fed him a piece of beef, he decisively stopped looking at her hand. He seemed quite satisfied. See, he had indeed learned bad things. This guy was really fucking applying what he had just learned. After the two confirmed their relationship, Chin Pan felt that his whole life. When his mother called him and asked if he had gotten a girlfriend, he didn't evade the question and directly said that he had. After his family's parents to him, they said he didn't want to see them. They wanted him to stay and accompany his girlfriend. Chin Pan also told his parents about some of Tangwa's experiences. After hearing what had happened, His parents were even more supportive of him staying by her side and accompanying this lonely and pitiful girl. Dad, Mom, I'll bring her to visit you in the future. Let's come back. There's nothing good out here. It's inconvenient to do anything. If it wasn't for work, I'd rather stay in the country. The Peak. Chapter 2373. Of course, if she's willing, you can travel to some beautiful places when you're free. You don't have to come to our place anymore. In 2 years, your father and I will be able to finish our work here and return home. After talking to his parents, Chin Pan would hang around Tangwa whenever he was free. He had already graduated. Tangwa was still a little short because she had to retake a lot of classes. Anyway, she wasn't in a hurry. She was already familiar with the classes. As for her roommates, they had already finished their classes and were currently doing internships outside. As for her situation, they didn't know, and she had no intention of revealing it. But they had a small group and would often chat in it. Moreover, they knew Tangwa's channel number. When they were free, they would go to the channel to look for her. Because the other 3 had chosen to work in different cities, it was a good opportunity to get a good job after graduation. A good job would have a great impact on their future. So, for the sake of a good job opportunity, they all chose to work in a place that suited them. Even so, the friendship between them still lasted forever. Until now, they would still ask about Tangwa's health from time to time and ask her not to tire herself out. Not long after, Tangwa returned to her hometown with Chin Pan and changed her household registration. Throughout the whole process, Father Tang and Mother Tang looked at her sullenly and didn't say a word. The other relatives wanted to persuade her, but they were interrupted by Father Tang. Especially when they saw that Tangwa had a man with her, Father Tang and Mother Tang's expressions darkened. For the sake of their pride, they didn't say anything. Once you step out of this door, you don't have to come back. Lin Yuhong wanted to say something, but Mother Tang pulled her back. Let her go. If she goes out today, I won't have a daughter. She looked at Lin Yuhong, and her expression softened. My only daughter from now on is Yuhong. In Mother Tang and Father Tang's eyes, Lin Yuhong was better than their biological daughter. Although their biological daughter hadn't called for more than half a year, Yuhong had taken better care of them than her biological daughter. Father Tang and Mother Tang had already decided that if Tangwa didn't repent, they wouldn't acknowledge her. In the future, everything would be given to this filial adopted daughter. Tangwa was too lazy to care about what they thought. From the moment she stepped out of this house, she had never thought of coming back. It was wishful thinking for these 2 old things to enjoy their retirement. If they had the ability, they could sue her in the future. They were so prideful that they probably wouldn't think of a way to sue her. And this Lin Yuhong, it seemed like she wanted to cast a long line to catch a big fish. They were going to suffer. Tangwa left without hesitation, which made the 2 of them even more convinced that it was better to raise a daughter than to have a biological daughter. After Tangwa left, they treated Lin Yuhong even better than they had treated Tangwa before. Lin Yuhong also had her own computer. Every time she locked herself in her room to look at the computer, Mrs. Tang and Mr. Tang looked at each other and asked what she was doing. Lin Yuhong would say that she was making an app for students to use in class. She reassured them that she wasn't addicted to the internet. She even showed them a slideshow of her app. When they saw the content, they believed her and thought that Lin Yuhong was the one with a bright future. Look, different people have different uses for computers. Peak. There was also a portion of them who were colleagues. Ever since there was an unfilial daughter in their family, they rarely talked about their family matters. The people in the unit were all smart people. Even if they really wanted to gossip, they wouldn't say anything in front of the 2 of them. On the surface, they appeared to be friendly colleagues, but behind their backs, they were saying that there was something wrong with their brains. The 2 of them finally retired, and then they were thinking about Lin Yuhong's marriage. They proposed to introduce Lin Yuhong to them, and Lin Yuhong agreed without any objection. She even said that she believed that they were the ones who introduced her. When Tangwa found out about the process, the 2 of them introduced Lin Yuhong to someone. When Lin Yuhong actually agreed, she couldn't help but ask, "Is it someone she arranged?" The system's voice sounded very strange. "No, That person is called Su Shan. Tangwa didn't say anything for a long time. Vertex. Chapter 2375. Su Shan. After a long time, Tangwa murmured the name. Su Shan. Wasn't he the man who beat the original owner to death? Why did Lin Yuhong, such a shrewd person, agree? Then, Su Shan had to be talked about. He was indeed the kind of person who worked honestly and honestly. This kind of person did very well in life. He was a good man who was bullied by everyone. No matter who he met, he would show a silly and honest smile. No one knew that he would do some perverted things behind people's backs. In the memory she received, this person was ferocious and terrible. When that honest face smiled, it only made people feel gloomy and terrible. Moreover, Su Shan's parents were both dead. He had a house, a shop, and a stable job that most people thought. Apart from the shortcoming of having no parents, the other two couples were very satisfied. Lin Yuhong was also very satisfied. This kind of honest person was easy to control. She planned to be a long-term person. This kind of person was easy to control. In fact, she took a fancy to the two houses and a shop in Su Shan's hands. Although the location was not good, in this city, it was really a good choice. For such an honest person, when he got married, she would find a way to coax him to get the house and shop. She would coax as much as she could. Then, when she got the money, she would find a way to make this honest person do something wrong to her. Maybe when they divorced, he would compensate her with some property. Lin Yuhong's abacus was good. The couple was very satisfied with this person called Su Shan. Su Shan seemed to be very satisfied with Lin Yuhong, because she was very beautiful. Her skin was white, and her figure was not thin like a bamboo pole. She was very standard and had everything. It was worth mentioning that in addition to the violent tendencies in Su Shan's heart, he also liked beautiful women like many men. In the original plot, he clearly knew that the original owner had a mental problem, but he still married her. It was because he took a fancy to her beautiful appearance. In fact, Su Shan had a criminal record. He had a girlfriend before. It was during the dating period that they had a conflict. The girl was not willing to continue the relationship with him. Everything went smoothly. Su Shan and Lin Yuhong got married. This was because Lin Yuhong was very good at coaxing people. Now that she had taken a fancy to Su Shan's house and shop, she was completely obedient to him. Su Shan, who was comfortable in both body and mind, naturally didn't feel any violence in his heart. Instead, he was very satisfied with Lin Yuhong. In just a few months, Lin Yuhong managed to coax him into transferring a house to her. Of course, he was also very satisfied with Lin Yuhong in other aspects. Now that he was in the unit, he was walking with the wind. He was living a happy life. Lin Yuhong coaxed more money into her hands. Every day, she would coax Su Shan while she coaxed the family Tang couple's money. However, she could take her time with the family Tang couple's money. She was not willing to coax Uncle Su Shanjing every day. Therefore, a year after they got married, Lin Yuhong set up a trap and Su Shan fell into it. He was caught red-handed by Lin Yuhong in a hotel with a strange woman. He turned around and ran away crying. Su Shan was dumbfounded. He hurriedly ran home to explain to Lin Yuhong. Lin Yuhong refused. She said that he had betrayed her and wanted a divorce. He had hurt her too much. Of course, Su Shan refused. He was also a little annoyed. For a moment, he was obsessed and actually asked out by a woman. Chapter 2376. However, Lin Yuhong couldn't be coaxed. That day, she returned to her mother's house, which was Father and Mother Tang's house. She told the couple about Su Shan. This time, it wasn't the original owner who had lost her mind, but the eloquent Lin Yuhong. Naturally, the two of them believed her words. They had acknowledged Lin Yuhong as their goddaughter for quite a few years now. Those relatives who had wanted to laugh at them smiled awkwardly when they saw them. After all, their Yuhong treated them so well, much better than those relatives' biological children. That was why Lin Yuhong said that Su Shan had cheated, even though in their impression, Su Shan was an honest man. Because of Lin Yuhong's words, they said hatefully, "That lad looks like an honest man who knows how to live his life. To think that he would do such a shameless thing." "Dad, Mom, no matter what, I want to divorce him. He hurt me, betrayed me, and betrayed our marriage. Initially, I was even planning to have a child. Thankfully, I didn't prepare for it. Otherwise, if I were to find out about this after having a child, I might not want to live anymore." Initially, the two of them wanted to persuade Sushan and teach him a lesson so that he would change. After all, in the older generation's thinking, even if Sushan did something wrong, it wasn't to the extent of divorce. As long as he changed, life would go on as usual. If Lin Yuhong was their biological daughter, they would definitely persuade her like that without hesitation. However, Lin Yuhong was their adopted daughter. She was raised from a young age and had always been filial to them. Now that she had made things sound so serious, they really didn't dare to say that anymore. In the end, Lin Yuhong even said that in today's society, such a man really couldn't be kept, especially those who cheated. Once there was one, there would be countless more. There was no way to change it. Lin Yuhong was too good at talking. The two of them were successfully brainwashed by her. The main thing was that she said that now that Sushan had cheated, she didn't know what else he would do in the future. When the time came, she would have a lot of trouble to deal with. Not only would she not be able to take care of them, they would also have to clean up the mess. She might as well get a divorce. Given her conditions, she didn't believe that she couldn't find a better one. The two of them were convinced. They felt that Sushan was unreliable and that they had to divorce. Sushan later begged Lin Yuhong for mercy, but was not forgiven. Lin Yuhong wasn't afraid of him cheating on her. She just kept crying by his side and said, "It's my fault. I can't make you give up looking for another woman. Since I don't have that ability, I'll set you free. Although I'm very sad, and I might not be able to get married again in this life because I can't walk out of this relationship. But Sushan, I really can't pretend that I don't know, because sand really can't melt into my eyes." At first, Sushan was very resistant to divorce. He wanted it. No matter what Lin Yuhong said, he couldn't divorce her. Because of this matter, his blood seemed to be boiling, and he had an impulse to explode. But even when Lin Yuhong was crying, she still looked so beautiful. Even if she blamed him, it still made his heart ache. Her complaints were also a sign of her deep love for him, especially when he heard her say that she might not get married in this lifetime because she could not walk out of this relationship. He was actually very touched. He blamed himself. Why couldn't he stand the flirting of a woman outside and followed her out? Chapter 2377. Wasn't Lin Yuhong good? Lin Yuhong was good. He had never seen such a good woman, such a perfect woman. He didn't want a divorce, but Li Yuhong had lost a few pounds recently, and her face was sunken. In the end, Sushan agreed to the divorce and didn't pursue the matter of the house he had transferred to Lin Yuhong. He even gave her the shop under his name. He thought that even if they divorced, he would find a way to let Lin Yuhong return to his side and live the same life as before. Little did he know that Lin Yuhong was overjoyed. She hadn't starved for so many days in vain. She hadn't eaten anything, and her stomach was hurting from hunger. Once this period was over, she would definitely sneak out for a meal. Lin Yuhong moved back home because she still had to coax the couple's assets. Although she had coaxed a lot previously, most of it was the dowry they had given her. But she knew that the two of them were rich. They had been in good times when they were young and didn't lack money. The house under their name was very valuable. She couldn't coax the house. The couple wasn't that stupid, but it was still possible for them to use the house as a loan. Although the couple's pension was not small, she couldn't always guard this tree and hang herself to death, right? So, she planned to let the couple take the loan and leave with it. As for the couple, they naturally had their pensions to repay the debt, so she didn't go too far. Sushan often came to look for Lin Yuhong and gave her all kinds of things. Lin Yuhong looked at this big fool and declined a few times. Then, she pretended to be angry and snatched the things away. It would be a waste if she didn't give it to the fool. She didn't directly fall out with him to give him some hope. First, she didn't want Sushan to fall out with her directly and cause trouble for her. Second, a fool like Sushan would definitely think that she still liked him. He would definitely buy her some jewelry or something to coax her back. This kind of man was the most shameless. He would come after a little seduction. Sure enough, everything was as she expected. After a while, Lin Yuhong told the couple that she planned to buy the house that Su Shan had transferred to her. However, she wanted to borrow some money from them to buy a bigger house for their family to live together in the future. The couple didn't agree at first, but Lin Yuhong took them to see the big house. Lin Yuhong also told them that she would write an IOU. The reason why she wanted to borrow money from them was because she wanted to pay off the house in one go. She also said that she had a shop under her name, but she couldn't make quick money there. Otherwise, she wouldn't have asked them for help. The couple had saved up some money. Back then, they had about 1,000,000 yuan in total. However, he had spent quite a lot of money over the years. Previously, when he sent Tanghua to the school to quit internet addiction, he had spent 200,000 yuan. Taking everything into account, he had spent 300,000 yuan. When Lin Yuhong got married, because Su Shan had 2 houses and a shop, they gave Li Yuhong 100,000 yuan in advance and a car worth 300,000 yuan as her dowry. In addition to other miscellaneous expenses, they had less than 400,000 yuan on hand. They asked about the price of the house and how much Lin Yuhong had sold the house for. In the end, they realized that even if they took out all their savings, they would still be short. Perhaps it was because Lin Yuhong had a shop here and had signed an IOU. But the couple didn't suspect anything even though they had been together for so long. That big house was indeed very attractive. They could imagine how their relatives would be envious of them when they lived there as a family in the future. Therefore, they finally decided to use the house they were living in to get a loan. Together with the other 300,000 yuan, they gave Lin Yuhong a total of 600,000 yuan. On the day they received the money, Lin Yuhong said that she was going to take a look at the shop today. In fact, her shop had already been sold. When they took a look, she was gone. Moreover, Lin Yuhong's performance in the past few years at home made it impossible for people to suspect that she was a liar. But he really didn't expect that the swindlers nowadays would be so considerate and spend so many years deceiving them. Father Tang was much more clear-headed than Mother Tang. He heard Mother Tang talk about how good Lin Yuhong was, saying that Lin Yuhong often cooked for them, bought them things, and took them on trips. He thought about it. Although Lin Yuhong would often cook for them, she would only cook 3 or 4 times a week. Not only did Lin Yuhong live at his house, but almost every meal was cooked by Mother Tang. Chapter 2379. Even when Lin Yuhong was cooking, she only knew how to cook 1 or 2 dishes. Most of it was done by Mother Tang. Lin Yuhong wanted to help wash the dishes. As she washed, she said that Mother Tang was working hard and suggested that they buy a dishwasher. But how could they swallow their pride and accept her things? In the end, they bought the dishwasher and Mother Tang fought to pay for it. For example, when Lin Yuhong took them on a trip, even though she was the one who paid for the package, they felt pretty good during the trip. Most of the expenses were paid by the 2 of them. When they returned, they felt that Lin Yuhong was sensible and nice to them. She thought of them every day, so they tried their best to give her money. When Lin Yuhong bought things for them, even if they didn't give them the money directly, they would add some money to buy her a better one. As for clothes, they didn't dare to buy them because of the young people's admiring gazes. But they bought Lin Yuhong a gold bracelet that wouldn't depreciate. No matter how they thought about it, they were the ones losing out. Besides, they found a partner for Lin Yuhong and sent her off to get married. The dowry, the car, the cash, and all kinds of expenses were a huge sum. Also, Lin Yuhong got a house and a shop from Su Shan. If they bought them, it would be about 7 to 8 million yuan. No matter how much they thought about it, they must have been scammed. Father Tang reacted faster and pulled Mother Tang up. Mother Tang's eyes were still red. She looked at him pitifully and said, "Zhengbua, Yuhong is such a good child. She wouldn't lie to us, right? Let's go." Were they going to let people laugh at them? "Zhengbua, are we going to look for Yuhong? Let's go to her school first." Because it was Saturday and Sunday yesterday, the school was closed. They had asked the school guard. When the guard heard that they were looking for Lin Yuhong, he only said that Lin Yuhong didn't come. She looked busy and was playing cards with someone. Since he said that she didn't come, It should be true. Today was Monday. Father Tang prepared to go to the school again. Lin Yuhong was indeed a teacher at that school. There was nothing to doubt about this. Lin Yuhong went to work every day. Also, they occasionally saw Lin Yuhong's payslip. It was indeed from that school. If Lin Yuhong had not worked there for so many years, there must have been something that had been exposed. It was impossible that they had not noticed it. After the two of them left in a daze, the neighbor closed the door and the couple began to discuss in the house. Did you hear that? That Lin Yuhong seems to be a liar. It can't be. Why wouldn't they? If they weren't scammers, why would they be so anxious and disappointed? Did you see their ugly expressions just now? The middle-aged woman couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. In the past, Zhang Yuehua and I often went to the park together. Every day, I would hear her talk about how good their Yuhong was and how filial she was to them. She was so proud of herself that it almost made my teeth ache. Now that Lin Yuhong is a liar, wouldn't Zhang Yuehua be angered to death? The middle-aged man was silent. If Lin Yuhong is a liar, and she has disappeared now, these two people must have been deceived. Isn't that right? The middle-aged woman clicked her tongue a few times, shook her head, and said in a low voice, "Swindlers nowadays are really patient. They used a few years to deceive a family. If they didn't come over today, with Lin Yuhong's filial piety towards them, who would have known that she was a swindler?" Chapter 2380. I heard that Lin Yuhong got a house and a shop when she got divorced. That man seems to have given her quite a lot of compensation. Plus the money she swindled from the other two. It's almost 10 million yuan. TSK. Spending a few years to get so much money. It's not a loss. Father Tang and Mother Tang rushed to Lin Yuhong's school. As for what the neighbors were talking about, they didn't know. Even if they knew, they couldn't stop it. Only two people were talking about it today. Who knew how many people would be talking about it tomorrow? Mother Tang's expression was wooden as she pulled on Father Tang's sleeve. "Zhenghua, what do you think we should do if we can't find out where Yuhong is?" Now, Lin Yuhong had taken away all their savings. They had even taken a loan of 300,000 yuan for her. Even if their retirement salary was okay, it would take a long time for them to pay off the 300,000 yuan. Previously, they had thought that Lin Yuhong could use the rent from the shop to pay off the 300,000 yuan, so they had taken out a shorter loan. If they really waited at home every day for their retirement salary to pay off the money, they would have to live frugally. They might not even have enough to eat to pay off the 300,000 yuan within the time limit. If they didn't have enough to eat, they couldn't use all their retirement salary to pay off the debt. If people found out, they would become a joke. If they couldn't get the money back, they would have to do odd jobs at their age to pay off the debt. As for selling the house, impossible. How could they sell the house? Wouldn't that be even more embarrassing? If that happened, they wouldn't have a place to stay in this city. They were already so old. No matter what, they couldn't sell the house. If they really had to sell the house, not only would they not have a place to stay, but it would also be embarrassing if word got out. I don't know what to do either. Call the police. This thought flashed across their minds. But if they called the police, their situation would definitely be exposed. When that happened, everyone would know that they had adopted a daughter and kicked their biological daughter out. In the end, their beloved adopted daughter was a liar, and they were a shadow wolf who broke into their house. If other people found out about this, they would become a real joke. Should we call the police if we can't find her? Mrs. Tang asked weakly. Although it was embarrassing, it was a lot of money that they had saved for their retirement. She couldn't just let it go because of embarrassment, right? However, Father Tang had always been a person who cared about his reputation. It wasn't easy for them to regain their dignity because of an adopted daughter. Every time she saw her relatives, she could straighten her back. In the end, when this matter was reported, he really couldn't keep his old face anymore. Not only did they lose their old face, but in the future, no matter who thought of this matter, they could laugh at them for the rest of their lives. The more he thought about it, the uglier Father Tang's expression became. Because the school was quite far from their house, they had to take a taxi. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have let Xiaoguo leave. They're right. No matter how disobedient Xiaoguo is, he's still my own child. Things wouldn't have turned out like this. Mrs. Tang couldn't help but mutter. Father Tang's expression turned cold. If she hadn't been disobedient, would she have gone through so much trouble? If you ask me, the reason we're here today is because she was disobedient. If she was obedient and didn't learn bad things, how could we have adopted a liar as our daughter? Chapter 2381. Yes, it was all because of their unfilial daughter. If that unfilial daughter hadn't been led astray, would they have adopted an outsider and a liar? Mother Tang's words caused Father Tang to instantly push the blame onto Tanghua. Because of their anger and the fact that Lin Yuhong had treated them so well, they had long forgotten that they had a biological daughter who had been chased away. Now that they thought about it, it wasn't because they missed her, but because they blamed her. They blamed her for being insensible. If she had been sensible and obedient, they wouldn't have been cheated and targeted by evil wolves. Half an hour later, the two of them arrived at the school where Lin Yuhong worked. The security guards here were more strict, so they had to register before entering. They almost never came to the school to look for Lin Yuhong. Every time they delivered something to her, they would call her and ask her to come out to collect it. Because of this, they didn't suspect anything was wrong with Lin Yuhong. This time, they asked the security guard, and he said that they were looking for Lin Yuhong. The security guard was a middle-aged man. When Father Tang gave him a pack of cigarettes, he recalled Lin Yuhong's information in his mind. He had a deep impression of Lin Yuhong, who was a very beautiful woman. I don't think she came today. I don't know if she applied for leave, but you can go in and ask. Because the pack of cigarettes Father Tang gave him was of good quality, the security guard's attitude was better, and he even told him who to ask. After receiving the news, the two of them went in to ask. Lin Yuhong really didn't come today. I couldn't get through to her phone either. She didn't apply for leave, and when I called her number, it didn't even exist. I'm also curious if something happened to her. This was one of the people in charge of the school. He frowned. Because she didn't come in time yesterday, the students who returned to school waited at the entrance for a long time. The sky was already dark, but no one opened the door. Fortunately, a student complained about it and used the spare key to open the door. Open the door? The two of them were puzzled. Could Lin Yuhong be in charge of opening the door in school? Oh yes, who are you to her? Why are you looking for her? If you are familiar with her, you can contact her and ask her to come to school quickly. Even if something happened, she should apply for leave. If there's anything, you have to explain it to them so that the students can't enter the dormitory. But I also believe her. She has been a dormitory manager for our school for several years and has always been very meticulous. Maybe something really urgent happened this time, so she didn't have time to ask for leave. Listening to the person in charge talking to himself, he seemed to be very satisfied with Lin Yuhong's performance in school. If it were any other day, the couple would definitely feel very proud. But now that they knew that Lin Yuhong might be a liar, they really couldn't feel happy. They didn't understand how a swindler could have such a good reputation. They must have encountered a high-level swindler. With such a reputation of all things, why did he have to be a swindler and cheat them of their retirement funds? Mrs. Tang wanted to say something, but Mr. Tang stopped her. We are distant relatives. She called us before and asked us to come to the school to look for her. We aren't very familiar with her. Lin Yuhong had never mentioned her private life in school either. The person in charge didn't suspect anything and just nodded. I don't know what happened to her. Can you contact her family? Chapter 2382. I can't get in touch with her. Actually, we're not that familiar with each other. I only came to look for her because of some important matters. Father Tang said with a straight face. So she's the dormitory manager here? Yes, she's our dormitory manager. Father Tang's face darkened. She said she was working at your school. We thought she was a teacher here. The dormitory manager is also a teacher. She's not wrong. The manager smiled. Perhaps it was because Lin Yuhong was too good at dealing with people, but he couldn't help but defend her. Since she's not here, we'll leave. Father Tang didn't want to stay here any longer. They had been deceived. Lin Yuhong said she was a teacher here, so the dormitory manager was also a teacher. They had always thought that she was a regular teacher in this school, which was why they trusted her so much. If they had known she was the dormitory manager, they wouldn't have believed her so easily. There were no liars in teaching and educating students. Lin Yuhong was a high-level liar. She didn't know how this school chose people. They actually chose a liar to be the dormitory management teacher. Weren't they afraid that she would kidnap their students? At this moment, Father Tang put the blame on the school again, but he didn't dare to say it out loud. After leaving the school, Mother Tang asked if he wanted to call the police. He shook his head and said he would think of another way. Maybe he could spend money to find Lin Yuhong. In the end, they found a company that specialized in finding people. They spent $30,000 to give them Lin Yuhong's photo and told them to find her. Mother Tang was a little reluctant, but she couldn't persuade Father Tang. For the next 3 days, the company reported to them every day, and they gradually believed it. 3 days later, the company said they had found Lin Yuhong's whereabouts. However, they had paid to find her. If they wanted to catch her, they would need another $30,000. The two of them gave it to the company without hesitation. It was as if they were grasping at straws. 1 day later, Father Tang wanted to ask if they had caught her. When he dialed the number, a voice said, "Sorry, the number you have dialed is unavailable." At that moment, Father Tang was so angry that his body leaned back. If Mother Tang hadn't been quick enough to support him, he would have fallen. Clearly, they had been deceived again. After hesitating for 2 days, they finally chose to call the police. Now that so many years had passed, and because they didn't call the police in time, all the clues were lost. Even if Lin Yuhong used her real identity, as long as she escaped to some small place, they wouldn't be able to catch her. Because of this, the two of them were somewhat regretful. They should not have hesitated. They should have called the police immediately. Now, they really didn't have a single cent in their hands. Chapter 2383. Because of these people's words, they were even more disgusted with the idea of acknowledging their biological daughter. Father Tang had already placed all the blame on Tanghua and had never thought of bringing his biological daughter back. If he were to acknowledge her, wouldn't he be admitting that what he did was wrong? If his unfilial daughter found out, she would probably laugh at them. When Mother Tang heard these relatives' words, she also felt rebellious, especially when Father Tang was talking bad about Tanghua. She had listened to Father Tang for most of her life, so naturally, she would listen to him even more. Su Shan would occasionally come to visit Lin Yuhong, so he naturally heard that Lin Yuhong had left with the money. Everyone looked at him and shook their heads. As for the things that he had done to Lin Yuhong in the past, they had already forgotten about it. Su Shan left as if nothing had happened. From that day onwards, he never came back. On the other hand, the police did not make any progress in their search for Lin Yuhong. The couple waited and waited. Week after week passed, month after month passed, but there was still no news of Lin Yuhong. After a year, they were finally disappointed. Now, they had no choice but to do some odd jobs to make ends meet and pay back the $300,000 that they borrowed. Even though there were many relatives who laughed at them, there were also some who pitied them and wanted to help them. But when they heard that the other party wanted to persuade them to acknowledge their biological daughter, they were extremely disgusted and basically fell out on the spot. If it wasn't for that unfilial daughter, would we have acknowledged an outsider as our daughter? It's all because of that scourge. Father Tang had lost count of how many times he had said this. Mother Tang heard it every day and believed it. From the bottom of her heart, she believed that everything was because of Tanghua. In the end, she followed Father Tang and scolded Tanghua. Tanghua found out about all this through the system. She was not at all disappointed that the two of them were unrepentant. If the two of them changed, then the sun would really rise from the west. In the past few years, the internet had developed rapidly and had entered the era of big data. For a talented and capable broadcaster like Tanghua, she was already very famous and had an uncountable number of fans on Weibo. She had appointed many disciples to play musical instruments, and quite a few of them had achieved good results in this aspect. With Tanghua's appearance, fame, and talent, she would be invited by some internet celebrity programs. Under normal circumstances, She would go if she thought she could go. She wanted to show off her talents and make herself more famous. As for accepting advertisements, she rarely did so. As for the schools that she had tortured before, she hadn't heard much about them in the past few years. Due to the explosion of the era of big data, even the elderly began to take all kinds of statuses in their circle of friends, watch live broadcasts, play small games, read the news, and watch short videos. Speaking of being addicted to the internet, there was no lack of news about parents who were so addicted to the internet that they forgot to pick up their children and let their children eat takeout. This kind of role reversal was something no one would have thought of a few years ago. Those who used to resist the internet gradually realized the benefits of the internet. Although there were all kinds of bad things on the internet, there were more benefits. Such a development was inevitable. These things that pushed the era forward would definitely have some drawbacks in the beginning, but in the process of pushing and evolving, they would definitely become more and more perfect. Chapter 2384. For example, all kinds of games now had restrictions to prevent people from getting addicted. One had to be an adult to start a live broadcast. There were also many immature areas that were gradually being perfected, making everything better. Of course, there were also people who were stubborn and didn't like to come into contact with new things. Even if they didn't come into contact with new things and brought a lot of inconveniences to their lives, they were still the same. Nowadays, very few people brought cash when they went out to buy things. Very few people would pay with a card, they would pay with a QR code. Even if it was a stall in the alley, a vegetable market, a street stall, a tricycle, pulling fruit, and shouting as they walked, they would always have a QR code that could be used to pay. You don't have a QR code here? A young girl asked in surprise. Sorry, I'm not used to carrying cash. If you have a QR code, I'll just scan it and pay. Mrs. Tang wiped her hands on her apron and said dryly, We don't know how to do that. Why don't you pay with cash? I didn't bring cash. The young girl frowned and looked at the biscuit in her hand. I already took a bite of this thing. I can't return it, right? Lady boss, do you have a phone?
Yes.
The young girl's eyes lit up. You can transfer money through the phone. I'll transfer it to you directly. When she saw Mrs. Tang take out an old flip phone, she didn't know what to say. This phone didn't seem to support certain functions. Forget it. I'll exchange some money for you here. The young girl saw the fruit stall next to her and went over to buy a fruit. She told the owner that she wanted to transfer some money to her, and the owner happily agreed. In the end, Mrs. Tang took a 5 yuan note and watched the young girl leave with a complicated expression on her face. She could even hear her muttering, Next time I go out, it's better to bring some change. Not all places allow mobile phone payments. However, the next time you buy something, it's better to ask if you can pay with your phone. If you can't, then don't buy it. When Mr. Tang came over with the things, Mrs. Tang told him what happened. What mobile payment? Isn't it better to pay with cash? It's so troublesome to use a phone, and you have to get a new one. The two of them had to pay off their debts and didn't want to be mocked by their relatives and friends, so they could only set up a stall. It was fine at first, but later on, that stupid mobile phone payment made their business worse and worse. They didn't understand why they had to create such a troublesome thing. It was convenient and direct to give it to them. Why don't we make that QR code? Mrs. Tang hesitated for a moment before replying. Basically, she was the only one keeping watch here. Father Tang still had to deliver goods to people. She looked at the other stalls and saw that they all had mobile payment. There were many people buying, but their stall was deserted. But Father Tang refused. He hated mobile payments. Because Father Tang refused to make a QR code, the business was getting worse and worse. It was not that people did not want to buy their things, but people nowadays did not bring cash when they went out. Those who were able to bring 100 yuan out were already considered to have brought a lot. The two of them were not of the same generation, so they could only be eliminated. In the end, the food stall could no longer operate. Fortunately, he had already returned most of the money over the years. Now that he didn't have to run around, it wasn't that difficult. Chapter 2385. However, Their refusal to follow the trend of the times caused all sorts of trouble in their lives. Their stubbornness caused them to have fewer and fewer friends. Even their relatives were unwilling to pay attention to them. Until one day, the two of them were watching TV in the cold living room. Because it was New Year's Eve, the lights outside were waning. Every family was eating a warm New Year's Eve dinner, but they had only cooked some frozen dumplings to eat. Because they had almost finished paying off their debts, they had been eating poorly these years. They didn't dare to eat too well and didn't dare to spend their money recklessly. It had been a long time since they had added furniture to their house. Their phones were broken, but they didn't replace them with the current smartphones. Instead, they bought old phones that cost 200 yuan each. That was because even the cheapest smartphone would cost 4 to 500 yuan. Moreover, they didn't know how to use smartphones. Father Tang had always thought that smartphones weren't easy to use. The screen was too sensitive and would light up with the slightest touch. It was definitely not good for the phone. Moreover, the batteries of the current phones couldn't be removed. If the batteries broke, it would be troublesome. In short, they refused to accept this world that was slowly becoming richer, especially the world of the internet. The old TV was playing a program that was organized every year. It was only at this time that they could hear the enthusiastic voice of the TV host and feel a little lively. Time passed slowly. The two of them stared at the TV intently. It was as if the program on the TV was very attractive to them, until a very familiar face appeared. They looked at each other in disbelief. The person who will be performing next. I believe that the audience sitting in front of the TV at this moment will recognize her as long as you go online and watch the live broadcast. So, who is she? The host didn't continue speaking. Instead, he turned the camera to the performer. It was a beautiful woman smiling at the entire nation. The couple was very familiar with her. When the cello sounded, they stared without blinking. They didn't move at all until Tangwa stood up and left with the cello. In the following time, they were no longer in the mood to watch other programs. No matter how exciting or good the skit was, it couldn't attract them. I must have seen wrongly, he said faintly. Go to sleep. Sleep early. How could that unfilial daughter participate in such a formal program? But on the second day, the two of them could no longer lie to themselves. They received a lot of calls from their relatives, all asking if their daughter, Tangwa, was the one performing the cello on the show. As the two of them walked into the park, people who used to know them tugged at them and asked if that was Tangwa. Then, everyone urged them to go and acknowledge their biological daughter. Someone even told them that Tangwa was famous now and had many fans on the internet. Not only that, but she also had many students all over the world. However, none of this affected the two of them. When Father Tang and Mother Tang went to visit their relatives, they went to the distant cousin's house. Then, they discovered that the granddaughter of their distant cousin's wife was actually doing a live broadcast in her room. She was really singing and dancing. Actually, he had accidentally passed by the room. The door of the room was probably not closed, and Father Tang, who was passing by, had seen him. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.